this is our 5th attempt to start recording this episode. We're going to skip the fucking pleasantries and just get on with this shit.
Our patience is wearing thin.
We have lives. We have things to do.
And I'm halfway through my beer, man, so we ain't got that much time.
All right. The world is still shit. Nothing's changed. Everyone's still in quarantine. Jessica has to still take care of dogs and other animals.
Yep.
And I am stuck in the eternal winter with my children at home.
Yes.
So let's take our mind off of it a bit. Since it is What the Fuck Wednesday, I thought we would just jump on the bandwagon for what the rest of the world is talking about right now, which is Tiger King.
Oh my God.
Now, I know you haven't finished the show yet. You are far enough along for what we're going to talk about, and I promise not to spoil anything for you.
Honestly, I give 0 fucks. You can spoil the whole thing.
Oh no, I loved it. I had many feelings about it, but today we'll specifically be talking about who killed Don Lewis, aka Carole Baskin's second husband.
Yeah, how many does she have?
She's on number 3.
Okay, because that's the guy that's on the show, right?
Yes, the creepy man who wears a collar and takes photos as her cat.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. Okay.
It's the weirdest fetish photo I've ever seen in my life. It's just because he doesn't look the part. He just kind of looks like your English teacher that also likes to tend to be a cat.
I don't know. I would have maybe called him like a social studies teacher.
Social studies? Yeah. Right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably for like elementary students too, you know?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They're never going to remember that shit.
Never. So this is probably the biggest outburst of conspiracy theories that I've seen in a really long time. And I've been reading all of them. You know, some of them are complete garbage and some of them are, you know, kind of make sense. But it's a really fascinating thing to start a documentary about big cat collectors and the abuse of these animals, and for it to turn into this whole theme of, did this woman feed her husband to a tiger?
They switched up their priorities real quick. So when I heard everybody talking about the Tiger King, I was like, yeah, I've heard about it. I don't know anything about it. I just keep hearing people say that they watched it on Facebook or whatever. I didn't realize it was going to be a documentary.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was just going to be some, you know, with like the whole cast of Will Ferrell and all his fucking buddies. I thought it was just going to be some shit show of like a fucking Talladega Nights knockoff or something, you know, something stupid.
Yeah, someone needs to, first of all, make that movie. That would be a great movie.
I pictured, and the only reason I know his name is because I had to look it up because I was talking to someone at work the other day, but I pictured Danny McBride. Do you know who that is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I pictured him playing like some fucked up weird Tiger King guy, like some fucking delinquent guy.
Oh, yeah, he would be great. Will Ferrell would play that Doc.
Yes, with the long hair and the 8 wives or whatever.
It's just crazy. You start watching it, you're like, all the emotions. You're like, oh, this guy's crazy, but this is hilarious. And then you get really angry at you when you realize how awful this animal abuse is, and then you get introduced to all these characters who are all equally as shitty to the next one. Carole Baskin
all just a bunch of fucking hillbillies.
Oh, yeah. Carole Baskin's just as bad as Tiger King, but she somehow thinks she's better. But, yeah, I won't go too far, but, you know, his husbands and all the weird things that happen with the employees, and, like, it's just crazy.
Right.
Fucking crazy. How far have you gotten?
Oh, I don't know. They just had the studio burned down.
Okay.
So I think it's maybe like a little over halfway because there's only like 6 episodes or something, right?
Yeah, there's like 6 or 7, and then they're going to be coming out with another one. I think they're recording it right now to like, with all the hype going on. But yeah, so there's a lot of shit that you're about to see. But I confirmed before doing all this research that you have seen the episode where they focus on Carole Baskin and the disappearance of her ex-husband,
yes,
Don Lewis. So
correct.
You've seen that, so
which honestly, like I said, it doesn't TJ watches it because he thinks it's hilarious, and that's fine, it's hilarious, but I'm usually reading a book while it's on, so.
I had to take a break from it. Travis thought I was joking at first, but you'll get to this, you'll know exactly when you see it, but there came a part of the show where I mean, if you don't care, I'll just say it. But
Yeah, I don't care.
one of his husbands shoots himself in the head in the middle of the office.
Oh no, which one?
It's Travis Michael Maldonado. He killed himself in front of Joe Exotic's like political campaign manager.
Oh.
Just the guy you see a video of the political advisor's reaction, but he just walks in there, sits down, blows his brains out, and this guy's like thinks it's a joke at first, like it was a bit.
Right.
And then slowly starts to realize, and then but at the funeral I had to walk out because this fucking crazy person, Joe Exotic, in front of this man's family says, oh, he was put on this earth, to make me happy, make me smile, and he would always walk up to me at my desk and like tickle my face with his balls and like just started saying nasty ass shit about him. And I'm like,
sweet memories.
Oh my God, this guy is.
Well, and the kid was like 19, I think. That he was like a baby and he wasn't even gay. Like there was that episode where Joe's like, hey, are you gay? And he goes, no. Well, something about watching a porno and do you look at the guy's dick? And he said, yeah, well, and that automatically makes him gay. And then all of a sudden they're married.
Yep. And the other husband, the one that sits there with no shirt on and no respect for anyone in the room.
Right.
You're only on Netflix's biggest documentary series. You can't put a fucking shirt on, but he's not gay either. He was fucking one of the girls that worked there the whole time. He's like, I was never gay. It just, Joe has a way of like, because they're all high all the time, of like making you feel like you need to be with him.
Oh my God.
But I understand there must be this appeal, like same with that Doc Antel, like, yeah, he's got 8 wives and they all want to be around tigers all day, but that wouldn't work on me. Like,
no, I don't like tigers that much.
They're all fucking dumb. He's got like 200 some tigers in that fucking place. Like, absolutely not. I really hope like something comes out of this and like they all get shut down. It just shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah,
like,
hopefully. I don't know how they're still open. Because they keep saying, PETA comes here and investigates this and whatever. And it's like, then how are you still open?
Because people with money want those connections too. Like, look at Shaq was there buying a tiger.
Yeah,
he was there.
Right. You think I can buy a tiger?
You can buy a tiger, but I'm going to punch you directly in the cunt. Everyone's like, can't wait for this stimulus check from Trump so I can get me a $2,000 tiger.
Right? Everybody who binge watched Tiger King is now. It's like when the 101 Dalmatians movie came out. Like everybody got a fucking Dalmatian and then realized that they're shitty dogs.
Assholes. Yeah, it's crazy. But Travis didn't believe me until he looked it up that like Texas is fucking crazy. You can own a giraffe. People own giraffes and fucking monkeys. Like,
why? It's a lot of work.
Yeah, what are you even feeding that giraffe? How are you even reaching its mouth?
You have a lot of trees on your property?
Just huge, and like special trees too. You can't just feed them like a fucking pine tree. Like,
Gertrude, my giraffe, prefers oak trees.
Which, we don't really have any more trees left, so we've just started chopping up romaine lettuce and like throwing it in the air.
It's got like, they use like the chuck it that I use for Stella's tennis ball and they like throw it up in the air.
I don't get it. People are nuts. I hope all of them get eaten by tigers. I could go on for days about how fucked up that show is, but today we're going to focus on all the hype of, did Carole Baskin kill her husband,
yes,
Don Lewis? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
My sources were the original documentary series and then also the podcast called The Murder Squad. And then I got a few things off of, New York Times. So those are my sources.
Okay.
So
I'm ready.
Netflix's Tiger King was released on March 20th, 2020, not that long ago. The series focuses on a small but deeply interconnected society of big cat conservationists, but they're fucking not. Like Carole Baskin, owner of Big Cat Rescue, and collectors such as Exotic, whom Baskin accuses of abusing and exploiting wild animals, today we're going to focus on the disappearance of Carole Baskin's second husband, Don Lewis. Since the release of the show, the world has become obsessed with the question, where is Don Lewis? This has sparked several conspiracy theories and the public outcry for this investigation to be looked into further. And this is still an ongoing investigation. They don't close cold cases during this short period of time. So, still open. They're accepting tips right now. And I checked a few hours ago and they said they still had no viable tips. I'm sure it's just somebody in Alabama that's like, I saw him down at the Cracker Barrel. Carole Baskin's first marriage was to Michael Murdoch. There's not much information about him. They got married when she was only 17 years old. They had one daughter together, Jamie Murdoch, who you see in the series. But he was extremely abusive, and she was too afraid to leave because the idea of leaving and having to raise a child on her own was more terrifying than staying. It wasn't until Carole met Don Lewis, her second husband, that she finally made the decision to leave Michael. So let's talk about how these two lovebirds met in the first place. After Carole had gotten into a fight with her first husband, Michael, she went for a walk down Nebraska Avenue in Tampa, Florida, which I looked on Reddit, and like people who live in Florida, it's a message board that talked about how Nebraska Avenue in the 80s was basically just sex workers and drug dealers. And so there's like a theory that she maybe was a sex worker.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why she was just walking up and down the street. So, and why Don Lewis, who is a creep, might have been strolling that part of town that time of night. So,
well, yeah, because then I guess I'll let you finish your story. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to just cut because, I think we watched that episode last night. She like gets in the car with him. He says, hey, get in the car and talk to me. And she fucking does. And then they spend the night together. Like, she absolutely was a hooker.
Yeah, and it wasn't without some convincing either, because Don saw Carole walking down the street and saw that she was crying. Don pulled over to ask Carole if she was okay and needed a ride, in which Carole refused. Now, this is all her story and the story that his children heard as well. Don circled Carole several times trying to convince her to get in his truck. On the last attempt, Don pulled up with a handgun on the passenger seat and told Carole that she could hold the gun to him during the drive to make sure he didn't try anything funny. Carole agreed, drove around with him for a few hours while they talked, while pointing a gun at him, and then fucked him that night in a motel room.
So romantic. I can't wait to meet my next husband in this fashion.
Fucking knight in shining armor. Just an old man, 24 years older than you, is like, hold this gun to my head. I'm not crazy.
Way to rescue the damsel in distress.
Right. I also have cash if you like giving knob jobs. I have lots of money. So let's get to know Jack Donald, a.k.a. Don Nelson.
Why wouldn't he go by Jack?
I know. Jack is better. Don is not as good. Jack is sexier instantly.
Is it?
Yes.
I wasn't even thinking of sexier. I was just thinking, like, if you're going for a name, why not your first fucking name?
I was thinking Captain Jack Sparrow. So
he does not look like that.
No, he does not.
And if that was the case, I would call him Captain, obviously.
Hello, Captain.
Please, Captain.
Give me another gun, Captain. Don met his first wife, Gladys, when he was 17 years old and she was just 14. Together, they had 4 children, 3 daughters, and 1 adopted son.
Dear God.
Uh-huh. Gladys described Don as an angel and the love of her life. However, Don was unfaithful to Gladys during their entire marriage. Gladys has stated that she would often pack 2 lunches for Don so that his mistress could eat as well.
What a saint. Oh my God.
Like she said, an angel. Don would return the lunchbox with love notes still inside and napkins covered in lipstick.
What a dick. Like, oh my God, what is even happening? Like, first of all, you're cheating on your wife. Second of all, she is being like a darling woman and making you 2 lunches, 1 for your cunt, and you're just like rubbing it in her face?
Mm-hmm. Oh, he was a sociopath, I think, from everything I've read so far. But did you see her in the interview, how sweet and kind she is? And he just shit all over her because they both aged together. Like, yeah, but she said like eventually she gave up because she just couldn't compete with the younger women, even though her herself was younger than him. But Don and Carole met in 1983 and began their 4-year affair. After 4 years, they both separated from their spouses and got married in 1991. There was a 22-year age difference between them.
Ugh.
I know, right? Okay, so Don was a self-made millionaire. He was notoriously private and kept to himself. No one can estimate how much he was actually worth, with interviews ranging between $7 million to $20 million. His claim to his fortune was his business in real estate and car sales, which is fucking, like, absolutely not. But
So many drugs.
absolutely. Nobody really knows how much Don was worth, as he was known to keep his wealth in gold and would bury it in his yard or properties to keep it hidden.
Definitely a drug dealer.
Yeah, exactly. There's not a single car salesman out there that's like, I don't know what to do with all this fucking gold. I sold 3 Hondas this week. Where am I going to put it?
Right.
Oh my God. The two began a love for exotic animals and big cats shortly after tying the knot. Although Carole had always loved cats, as she shared in Tiger King about growing up with her 2 invisible white cats.
Psycho.
Yes. While she says that too, if anyone noticed, she literally had 2 statues on one statue on either side of her of a white cat.
Yep, I saw that.
At one point, the couple visited an animal sanctuary that they quickly realized was a fur farm. Don bought Carole 50-some bobcat cubs and brought them home.
Just because they didn't want them to get killed?
Yes, which seems very noble. And at first you're like, oh my God, that's the right thing to do. But then you don't fucking keep them. They should go somewhere.
Right. You're just going to keep them in your house?
Yeah, that's what they did. They just had them in their fucking house. And then they started this fucking sanctuary, which at first has the dumbest name. They called it the Wildlife on Easy Street.
Super, super dumb.
Yeah, I wouldn't visit it just on the name. So they started Wildlife on Easy Street in 1992, which later changed its name to the Big Cat Sanctuary as a home for big cats, exotic cats, and wild cats. However, as the documentary explains, the two would later differ over the direction of the business. He reportedly was more interested in breeding and selling the cats, while she wanted to house them and look after them.
Mm-hmm.
Carole's daughter, Jamie, added, he was more of an animal collector, I think. He definitely liked the idea of having lots and lots of different kinds of animals.
Yeah, but then you have to take care of them. Like, I would absolutely love to house 20 chihuahuas, but do I want to take care of 20 chihuahuas? No, that sounds like a lot of fucking dental work to me.
It's very expensive. She has no choice but to be married to a millionaire. This is the most expensive hobby or passion that you could have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Eventually in 2020, when she's got, a couple million Facebook followers and unlimited amounts of volunteers and donors, like, she's very successful now. But there's no way in 1992 they can afford to feed even 50 cats.
Yeah, I think somebody at some point during the show said it costs $10,000 per cat per year, but $10,000 per cat. Like, that's, and if you've got 40 of them, like, cheese and sprinkles, man.
Yeah, so either you have like a Doc Antle where the zoo is very clean and modern and successful, but if you're Joe Exotic where it's a little bit more run down and shit.
He was feeding them like slaughtered horse carcasses or something.
Yeah, and they eventually start dumpster diving at Walmart for expired meat.
Oh my God.
And
how is that a thing?
they're awful. They're really awful humans. My one theory on Joe Exotic is that when he drove his car through his parents' house when he was a teenager and got that horrible back injury, that he also has a traumatic brain injury, and that would explain all this crazy erratic behavior, because there's just,
or it's the meth.
It's a combination of both. A little meth, a little TBI.
I hear meth's not that good for you, so maybe it's the meth.
I've been taking it prescription style. I'm very successful.
I had no idea.
I got 2 bangles on the way. They're about to. So Carole had commented how when he would go down to Costa Rica once a month, she would have a vet come over and neuter and spay as many cats as she could get done in those 2 days or whatever. Mm-hmm. I believe her when she says she didn't want to be about that. I don't think her work was very ethical, the way she cared for those older cats. But I do believe her when she says she didn't want to have babies and sell them. So
sure.
This disagreement was not the only issue that the couple had. Don was notoriously unfaithful to Carole.
Once a cheater, always a cheater.
Always. So Carole and others would describe Don as a sex addict. Don had a girlfriend in Costa Rica as well that was later confirmed by law enforcement. Carole also claimed that Don was suffering from early signs of dementia, which explained his short-term memory loss and odd behavior. She said that his behavior got really, really strange. He started refusing to use the bathroom and defecating outside.
Disgusting.
I know. Is defecating just peeing? No, it's pooping.
No, that's pooping.
Just, yeah. I was going to say, my whole family pees outside, but they're not pooping. One time he brought home a homeless man to stay in their house, and she had scheduled an appointment for him to see a psychiatrist, but he had canceled it. She had rescheduled the appointment again, but then he disappeared. But a lot of people on the show, including his lawyer and business partners, said that this dementia claim was incorrect and that he was he had full mental capacity and had never displayed any kind of erratic behavior or confusion. Sure. So that's just her claim at this point. Gladys, Don's ex-wife, claims that he had told her that Don was done with Carole and was divorcing her. Don's business associate also said that Don wanted a divorce, and before he went missing, his business associate also claimed in the documentary that he thought that Don believed Carole wanted his money and that he was setting up his assets to get a divorce and leave Carole with nothing. But nevertheless, the two continued running the sanctuary until Lewis mysteriously vanished on August 18th, 1997. This, of course, is the huge major plot point in the Netflix docuseries Tiger King, along with the fact that so many people seem to believe that Carole had something to do with it. Joe Exotic, a.k.a. Why did I say it like that? Joe Exotic, a.k.a. Joseph Maldonado Passage, widely spread the idea that she killed Don and fed him to tigers.
That wasn't his last name. That was the last name of the kid that died.
His current legal name is Joseph Maldonado Passage. So he has the two husbands' last names hyphenated for him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because his last name was Schreibevogel. Schreibevogel.
Mm.
Something fucked up. That's why he changed it to Exotic, because nobody knows how to say his last name.
Oh my God. Who picks Exotic? I mean, this man, I would kill for just a sliver of his self-confidence.
I officially requested that my husband grow his hair out like that.
Yeah. It's a great time to do it.
Right.
I'm going to give myself bangs.
Don't do it. Literally everything I've read online says now is not the time. I know you want to. Don't do it.
No, I definitely won't. I have photos favorited in my phone of me with bangs, so I just have to look at that every time.
Right.
And I go, gross. Your hair's too thin for bangs.
No, don't do it.
No. You look nasty, bitch. Don't do it. So Joe Exotic had released a country music video called Here Kitty Kitty.
Yep, saw that.
Portrays an actress who looks exactly like Carole Baskin feeding her husband's body to tigers.
We watched that episode last night, and it just said in passing, and it kind of showed a clip or two. And so we legit paused it, and we looked it up on YouTube, and it's hilarious.
Oh, it is. And then the outtakes of the girl, this poor actress who does not know how to interact with tigers.
Right.
Is scared and trying to put the tongs through the fence. Don't fucking kill me.
Right.
Right behind her is an employee that's missing a fucking arm. And she's like, what is this place?
I'm not getting paid enough for this.
All right, so let's break down this timeline. All right, in May 1997, Don bought a property so this is 2 months before he disappeared, or 3 months. Don bought a property in Costa Rica in hopes of moving the sanctuary down there. He began funneling money. According to law enforcement, he withdrew money from his personal account, business account, and procured a cashier's check, all totaling roughly $200,000. According to Carole, he used his assistant to funnel an additional $435,000 down there.
I bet he was banging her too.
Oh, absolutely. It's so funny because she was like, I was the only woman that Don never hit on. I saw a picture of you younger. You were hot. You for sure.
You definitely blew him.
Yeah, absolutely. And why are you, I'll get into that later. But yes, I 100% think that they had something going on. But so the $200,000 was a cashier's check that was placed into like a safety deposit box at a bank. And then the $435,000 was wired down to a bank account in Costa Rica through his assistant. Her name was Anne McQueen.
Do you think any relation to Lightning McQueen?
Definitely. Yeah. It's his great uncle.
Sorry.
You're fine. So in June 1997, Don Lewis files a restraining order against Carole, claiming that she has threatened to kill him and was in possession of 2 guns. The restraining order was rejected by the judge because of free speech protections. The state of Florida requires an immediate threat or a previous history of violence in order to approve a restraining order. Don claimed that Carole has threatened to kill him before in the past. In the Tiger King Netflix documentary, Mark McCarthy, a wildlife sanctuary owner, claims that he spoke to Don Lewis just weeks before he went missing, and Don apparently said that he felt like his life was in imminent danger. So in the restraining order he filed against Carole, he wrote, "This is the second time Carole has gotten angry enough to threaten to kill me, and enough is spelled very wrong."
I was going to say, are you reading from that ridiculous restraining order that they showed on there? Because I was wondering, like, do you have the education of a 5th grader, or who wrote this for you?
Yeah, I just screenshot that one section, but it's awful. I was away from our house, and then she gives 2 junk men permission to can. So it's another reason that this man is not worth $20 million, because
Right. He doesn't sound smart enough.
no, he's not. No. He files that. It was denied August 17th, 1997. So we're 2 months after the restraining order is filed. Carole went out late one evening to purchase milk for the cats. On her return home, Carole stated that her car had broke down. Her brother, who was a police officer, spotted her walking and asked another officer to give her a ride home. So that's August 17th.
None of that seems odd. So you're going in the middle of the night to buy milk for your cat when this is literally your only job. So I feel like you've got a lot of milk on hand.
I think she breastfeed them. But.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And your brother called someone to pick you up. He couldn't stop to help you?
He did stop. He stopped, talked to her. I think he wanted to bring in another officer to help, like, vouch for this story.
Yeah, because if it was any other situation, if she wasn't guilty of something, then he would have just picked her up and given her a ride. But obviously she's guilty of something, because then he called somebody else in to quote unquote, like, hey, can you give her a ride / an alibi?
Yeah, exactly. It's an alibi. On August 18th, Carole told law enforcement that she last saw Don around sunrise on August 18th, 1997. He told her that he was going to load a truck that was bound for Miami. That day, he was supposed to deliver real estate signs to his lawyer's office. The signs were left there before the office opened, but nobody had seen Don. So this is supposedly the last time that somebody is seeing Don. On August 18th, he got up early, she said. At sunrise to load up a truck and was going to go to Miami to board a commercial flight down to Costa Rica. So then August 19th, when Don still had not returned home, Carole reports him missing to law enforcement. Continuing on the next day, August 20th, Don's van is found at the Pilot Country Airport in Springfield, Florida, which is about 40 miles away from the animal sanctuary. The keys to his van were left on the floorboard and no evidence was taken at the time. They passed through the van, but they did not, fingerprint it. They didn't go into any kind of blood analysis or anything like that. They just were like, keys are in it. So they allowed Carole to bring the van back home and keep it in her possession for a few days.
Seems weird.
Yeah, before police came back to look for more evidence in the van. This is where I think, if I was going to speculate, I would say her going out that night and walking and her car broke down. I think that is somebody dropping a van off. And then needing an alibi as to where she was that night to be able to get back home.
Sure.
So, is she just walking with 400 gallons of milk too? You got 200 cats.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Well, and are you getting 2%? Are you getting skim milk? What kind of milk are you getting for these cats? How old are the cats? Cats don't even like milk after a certain age.
She's just feeding like a 50-year-old tiger whole milk
She needs milk.
with cream of wheat. She loves it. So she has the van. She's got plenty of time to do anything she wants to it. But as we see in Tiger King, there's some chatter that he could have taken a plane and illegally flown down to Costa Rica in some kind of elaborate escape plan. But there are no flight records or flight plans for Don that day. But he lost his pilot's license like 2 days after obtaining it. And he's crashed a plane before. And he bragged to people frequently about how he knew to fly without being caught. Like if you just flew at a lower
How
altitude.
do you lose your license 2 days after getting it?
He crashed a plane.
They're just like, well, that was fucking dumb. Sorry. Is it like when you get your marriage annulled? Do they just annul his license? Like, backsies.
Let's just pretend this never happened.
Right.
Hand it over, Don. This is enough. Don, you must hand it over. It's enough with an F. So, yeah, she was like, he knew what to do all the time. And some people were trying to say, like, Don didn't even own a plane. Yes, he did. And his official, like assets listed in his legal documents, he owned one single plane. Mm-hmm. So on August 23rd, Carole is asked to take a polygraph test in the midst of all of this, but she declines because of the advice given to her by her attorney. They found no sign of foul play at the Big Cat Sanctuary, even though they have been criticized for the lack of detail and not using best practices while investigating the sanctuary. So Carole was really, really certain, and still is to this day, that Don had full intentions on moving to Costa Rica with or without her. Mm-hmm. Don's handyman says in the documentary that Don told him, if I can pull this off, it will be the slickest thing I've ever done. Don's mechanic even claimed that Don had asked him to go to Costa Rica with him. It was believed his plan was to move his and Carole's wildlife sanctuary to Costa Rica. I think because the laws were a lot looser and he could make a ton of money off cats. This is why he really wanted to be down there. But when police eventually head down to Costa Rica to determine his whereabouts, they don't find much information except for confirming that he did in fact have a girlfriend, mm-hmm. and seeing his property that he owned, which was like a big gated property. He had security detail there.
Ooh, fancy.
Yes. And the interesting detail they did find out is that one security guard stated that they had not seen Don since a few weeks before his disappearance, but the other one stated that he saw him a week before the police had gone down there to investigate. So after his disappearance. Oh, okay. He had just seen him. They did see him. The one guy claims to, but there's no other information based on that claim. I'm like, what? Wouldn't you talk to that guy a little bit more? Like, mm-hmm. Lewis owned a 200-acre park there. As the investigation in Costa Rica lasted 5 days, investigators found indication that Lewis engaged in extramarital affairs, which and illegal business practices. Investigators also found that 2 of Lewis's ocelots, which is a type of like spotted cat, I believe, yep. Right? Yep. Had recently been shipped out, but there was no way to track where they had gone. None of his credit cards were ever used during this disappearance, which, if you're trying to disappear. One fact, too, is like people can fake their own deaths and start over. It happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, all the fucking time. It's not impossible. So, I mean, I totally kind of buy into that. But in December, so we're over a year later, December 1998, Don's children go public with their theory that Carole fed Don to the wildcats during an interview with People magazine. It's a perfect scenario to dispose of someone, his daughter said. We were upset that the cops didn't take a DNA test of the meat grinder. Carole's response to that was, my tigers eat meat, they don't eat people. There would be bones and remains of my husband out there. I'm amazed that people would even think of such a thing.
So dumb. People are so dumb, Carole. I know. There would totally be bones out there.
There'd be bones everywhere because tigers only eat meat, not vegan people.
Not humans.
Not humans. They're not delicious. Look at Cut to fucking Joe Exotic's staff missing a fucking arm. God damn it. The investigation began to die down as there was very little evidence to prove any of the theories. Don's assistant and most trusted ally, Anne McQueen, married to Lightning McQueen.
Thank you for remembering.
She was originally listed as Don's power of attorney on his will. She stated that Carole showed up to the office after Don had disappeared and took all of Don's legal documents from Anne's desk and attempted to have law enforcement intervene, but they stated they couldn't do anything as Carole had a right to be there as his wife. When Carole eventually turned these documents over, she was now listed as Don's power of attorney and the sole inheritor to his $5 million in assets.
Well, of course.
Oh, yeah. Well, who else would be included? Not his children.
Right.
Although in Don's will, he had added the term, in case of death or disappearance.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that creepy? They had a bunch of lawyers on there, and they're like, is this standard? And they're all like, no one puts in case I disappear on their fucking will. It's not a thing. That's clearly a sign of somebody who is paranoid that something's going to happen to him, which he told a lot of people that he thought he was going to be killed.
Yeah.
Due to Florida law, Carole could not collect Don's $5 million until 5 years after his disappearance, in which case then she could legally declare him as dead. The moment it hit 5 years in 2002, she declared Don dead.
She probably had an alarm set in her phone.
Absolutely. Can you imagine the party she had that day too? But she didn't miss a beat, even though there's really no evidence to prove that he's actually dead. And she's just like, you're dead. Like,
right. It's been 5 years. Where the fuck are you? Bye.
So, and she's also the executor of the will. So that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2011, police again asked Carole to take a polygraph, but she still refuses. And then, we're kind of just into today's time. So now we're going to get into these theories. And you're going to tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Final say.
I'm going to give you the final word.
Everyone has to shut the fuck up after this because Jessica will put the law down. Okay.
Yep.
First theory, Carole murdered Don and fed him to the tigers. It feels as though the main theory people are backing is that Carole killed her husband, Don Lewis, and then fed him to the tigers at Big Cat Rescue.
Sure.
Don's ex-wife and her daughters claim that Don was frightened of Carole. They really pushed the theory that Carole cut up Don, fed him through the meat grinder, and fed him to the cats. Carole had recently spoken out against this claim, calling it the craziest of them all. In the documentary, they showed a large industrial meat grinder, but Carole claims that they owned a hand crate grinder that could only handle a 1-inch cube of meat at a time. Mm-hmm. Don's children pled for law enforcement to do a DNA sample on the meat grinder, but they refused. Carole also defended herself by stating that big cats don't eat humans. We've already talked about that.
They eat whatever the fuck they want. Yeah, they definitely eat humans.
Especially when they all have psychosis because they're forced in tiny little cages with a bunch of other male tigers and they're fighting and defending themselves all day long. Like,
everybody's in quarantine right now. You feel exactly how wild cats in captivity feel right now.
Yeah, except for we have free access to food. Like, Travis was like, when they threw that haunch of a horse in that tiger cage at Joe Exotics of like at least 8 male tigers in there, he's like, wow, look at them all fight. I'm like, that's not fucking normal. They usually have their own pack. They're not used to fighting 7 other male tigers in a tiny pen for one scrap of meat.
They make their bitches do all the work.
Yeah, this is not fucking normal. And the way they circle in those cages, and you can see it at Como Zoo when they're just fucking walking around in a circle, that's psychosis. Mm-hmm. They're going batshit crazy. It's so sad. I told Travis the kids are never going to a zoo again.
Right.
So the second one, the septic tank. This one's quick. Another theory is that Don Lewis was killed by Carole and put in the septic tank underneath one of the buildings at Big Cat Rescue. Joe Exotic himself seems to believe that Carole killed Don, and he's now living in that tank. Carole stated that the tank was finished before Don died, and this was confirmed by law enforcement. So the third theory is that Don Lewis fled to Costa Rica with all of his money. And this one I just listed like random points that people can successfully fake their own deaths and start new lives. Carole repeatedly stated, and so did his business partners, that was his goal, was to get to Costa Rica and live there. Don was wiring money months before his disappearance through his assistant to Costa Rica. He also put remember that $200,000 check he put in the safety deposit box?
Mm-hmm.
It was there before he disappeared, and once law enforcement it was completely empty.
Mm-hmm.
Don and his assistant, Mrs. McQueen, were the only ones that had access to it. So Don talked about moving the cats and some cars down there days before vanishing. His handyman commented that Don had said that if he pulled this off, it would be the slickest thing he'd ever did. Don had a love affair down there. Many believe that Don had other unlawful business in Costa Rica. Truly, I don't believe that if Don wanted to kill himself, and this is just my opinion, and start his life over, that he would actually go to Costa Rica, because you're not going to go to the one place you always talked about going to.
Right.
I think it would be a lot smarter to go somewhere else. If I was always like, one day I'm going to run away and live at Valley Fair, well, I'm not going to go to Valley Fair. All of you guys are going to go there right away and ruin it.
It's where you're going to look for me.
You guys just watching me on the Wild Thing for 7 times in a row. Like, is she done yet?
Do you think we can grab her now?
She's over it, right? This is the final theory, and probably my favorite one. Don was a drug lord.
Mm-hmm.
There are many suspicious details as to how Don became so wealthy. Sure, real estate agents and car salesmen can make a good living, but surely not enough to bury gold bars in the yard. Don was estimated to be worth upwards of $20 million, although he only kept $5 million for his will. Don was known for taking trips back and forth to Costa Rica, which is a known drug production and cartelling and transporting island.
Sure, yep.
Don flew on small private planes and often had no explanation for his trips. They always had really petty reasons, like, I'm bringing a car down there, I'm going to look at this property, like, no real good explanation. Also,
Right.
Don's handyman, who was planning to move with him to Costa Rica, was a convicted drug trafficker and had a huge criminal record, including grand theft auto and violent crimes. Don also was known to be working with the Helicopter Brothers, a known mafia family in Costa Rica. At the time of his disappearance, Don was loaning the brothers money and was very much wrapped up in their business affairs. Some people believe that Don had crossed the wrong people and was taken out as a result. I mean, and there's so many more details into that, like, these trips would be to bring drugs back and forth, or potentially he was a money launderer. Mm-hmm. You've seen Ozark, you've seen kind of details for that, but
right.
Mainly, I think that he was laundering money for them, and that's how he ended up with so much, because you get a cut of it.
Right.
And he had other employees of his, like, who has so many handymen and who's so close to their mechanic? Like, all these people are bullshit, and he was flying them down there constantly. So those very well could be people that he was just hiring to, like, you go grab this case, bring it back. And if you're willing to fly under the radar and not fly commercial, which if you flew commercial so much, there'd be fucking records of it. And they said that they have very little records of him taking flights commercially to Costa Rica. So he's doing it somehow.
Yeah.
I think he was probably too old to actually be carrying the drugs on him, but I definitely think that he was involved. And like I said, the cops did find proof that he was loaning money to this mob family. So,
man. Yeah, so I think that seems logical. I mean, like the whole like how he picked her up with that weird like drive by, her being a hooker, and him being super rich, and the gold bars. Yeah, he's definitely a drug dealer.
He's creepy.
Oh my God, Costa Rica? Yeah, that's like
legit. If you own a gated home, 200 acres gated home in Costa Rica, you're worth more than $20 million. You're worth, you're a drug dealer.
But that doesn't necessarily, I mean, yeah, so maybe he got into some bad shit and that's how he died. But it's not like he was borrowing a bunch of money from a bunch of people and they offed him because he was in so much debt.
No, I don't think if he was being offed, I don't think it was due to the money. Because he was loaning them money. It could have been he spoke to someone when he shouldn't have, he made a wrong move, maybe he got mouthy, or they just wanted him down there full time and they helped him with all this. I mean, that very well could be part of it. No one's found all of his...
So you think that maybe he's like not dead and that they just relocated him or he changed his identity?
It's definitely a strong possibility. With the help of somebody, with people who are well connected, especially in the 90s, there wasn't cell phones. You weren't trackable as easily. Like, it was so much easier to do that. He very well just could have done it. If his wife had murdered him, I do agree with the fact that like there would be more evidence. There's just none. And I don't think she's smart enough to be that clean about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she's sketchy enough and she seems so aloof about it that it throws up red flags. Like if your husband was really missing and you were worried about it, or you were really not a factor in it, I feel like you would be showing a little bit more emotion.
I mean, that may be true if your husband's a nice, swell guy, but if he's a cheating asshole,
maybe you're like, fuck him anyway.
Yeah, who's trying to like fuck you over. I mean, it's hard to tell. You can't really gauge people's emotions and you can't really gauge how people handle trauma.
That's true.
I think she's crazy. And I think by now there would have been somebody who worked there, somebody who knew something, somebody would have come forward with more information, because really the only theory is that she has tigers, which is great. I mean, that gives you a really good way to cover up a murder, but I think there would have been more. I don't know.
Yeah, there would have had to have been some parts somewhere.
Yeah, and especially like people who are like, she just hurled him into the fence. Well, that would have been a bloodbath. That would have been so gory. Though that concrete would be stained. There would have been, I think, more. I don't think she's smart enough. I think there is people who are smart enough to get away with that, and that's like...
But it's not her.
I don't believe this woman is capable of hacking her husband up into tiny little pieces and then scattering it out amongst all the tigers. I don't think she's physically capable of that. That would take... Now, maybe her father. Have you met her father yet? No. He looks like a guy that could have cut up a man, but...
Yeah, I think that the drug dealer persona kind of fits his situation. I don't know that he's dead or if he's actually relocated, but I'm really feeling that drug dealer thing.
Yeah, there's some shit going on. It stinks.
It stinks.
This is what we have to entertain ourselves these days.
Garbage.
It makes me feel better about my life, though. You shut the TV off, you're like, thank God I don't abuse tigers. Like, I got nothing to worry about. I ain't never heard a tiger in my whole life.
Right.
I'm set. Not one. Not a single one. I hope that wasn't enlightening for you. Oh my God. Did I just say I hope that was lightning for you? I hope that was straight fire. What the fuck?
I mean, I gathered what you were saying.
Good. All right. Well, we'll see each other. We will talk. We will not see each other. We'll talk to each other
for a long time.
We'll talk to each other in a few days again. We'll do another quarantine episode.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, you enjoy your life of productivity and
freedom.
And I'm going to learn how to do new math so I can teach it to my kindergartner.
Good luck.
Thanks. I love you. I miss you.
I miss you too.
Don't kill your husband and feed him to your rooster.
We're not gonna rule it out.
I wouldn't. Keep all your options open.
Oh yeah,
it's the only way to survive.
Yep.
But $2,000, I'll get you a tiger. I have savings.
That's it. That's all it takes.
Yeah, and then we just resell it for a profit because it'll be bigger after it eats your husband.
Yep. A little extra protein and it'll be like good to go.
Fuck you, TJ Olsen. You lying bitch. See you. I keep saying see you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye.